What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Reseller Greatness Podcast. We have a great mate of mine, James, Mr. James from Bold Finds on the YouTube machine. And as you guys know, he was on with us about 6 months ago now. James, the time flies. I know you've been doing a lot. Your business is trending way up, way better than before. When we first talked 6 months ago, you were kind of changing models, things like that. But how's everything going, man? How's life across the pond? How's reselling treating you? How's life going?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me back on. Really appreciate it. I can't believe it's been 6 months. That has flown. But
Mhm.
yeah, like you say, when I spoke to you 6 months ago, Tech, the business was at the point of where in my head, I thought things were going really well. I was selling plenty of items, like the Kachinas were coming in. I was getting loads of stuff in, listing it. And then there was a bit of a reflection where it clicked with me that I was selling stuff for the sake of selling stuff and not selling stuff to actually make a profit. So yeah, changed the business model. The model effectively went to 99% online sourcing. And the change has been interesting, to say the least, because your cost of goods suddenly go up. So I've gone from spending, £1 or £2 per item and being at the car boots and being scared to spend £10 on an item or a tenner on an item to now being comfortable to spend £20 on an item that I know is going to sell for 100 as long as the sell through is there. So the main things I've taken this year, and you speak about it a lot, is that whole sell through rate. And beforehand, I never really looked at that too much because I used to just look at the car, when I was at the car boot, look at the sold comps, and that would be enough data. I didn't really ever check the active, which is crazy now looking back and thinking about it. But yeah, as you say, things are on the up. Really happy with where things are. But like everyone, I want to push further.
Nice. All right. So bring everybody up to speed. First, a car boot sale is for us Americans a flea market. A tenner
Yes.
is a $10 bill in the United States. I asked you guys if you had 20 years and you said no, but you have fivers, tenors, no 20 years apparently. All right.
It's just a 20, yeah, not a
There you
20.
go. So explain sell through for the folks that may be brand new, they don't know, they're not sure. What is sell through? What are we looking at? How are we assessing it? What were you doing before? You pick up an item before, how are you assessing if this is a good buy?
Yeah, so beforehand, what I was doing is exactly that. So I would pick up, I don't know, I've got this remote here. I'd pick up this remote at a car boot sale and I would maybe search on my phone the product code and I would straight away click on to sold and complete. Now, this remote might have sold 4 times and it might have sold for £20 each time. So I would say to myself, I'm paying £1, it's worth picking up. But I would never click on the active part. So now what you do for the sell through is you look at active. So this remote, it might have sold 4 times in the last 90 days, but there might be 5,000 listed.
Sure.
So actually, then you start looking at that and saying, well, actually, what's the odds of my remote selling when there's another 4,999 chances for the customer to buy? Couple of things going to happen. Yours is going to be the very best listing, is going to be probably promoted the highest, and you're probably also going to have to be lowest price at that point. So now when I'm looking at comps and when I'm considering buying things, instead of just looking to what has sold in the last 90 days, I also see what also is available. And that works in two ways because look, if there's only two available and there's only one sold, you might think to yourself that that's a super rare item, but actually it could go the opposite way where the item's still not worth picking up. So I like to see there's plenty available, but also plenty sold as well.
Very good. Perfect explanation. So now when we pick up items, we do the quick search, we check the actives, we check the solds, and then we consider the sell-through rate and make sure that we are picking up items that do have a good enough velocity to fit our metrics. And some people want a 90-day sell-through because that
Yep.
is the default sold metric that they give us. It's based on the last 90 days. You can go to therapy, can get all the way back 3 years, but the default active and sold is active is the picture today, the sold is the last 90 days. So let's say in James's example, 5,000 available, four sold in the last 90 days. This is going to take 1,000 90-day cycles, at least at minimum, 1,250 90-day cycles for this item to sell. And as
Yeah.
crazy as this is, there are items out there that have a 1,250 90-day cycle, which is 112,000 days, which is 308-year sell through. They have items out there that do have a
I
308
can
year
believe it
sell
because
through.
honestly, I've probably picked up many in my time before without realizing.
But you're right. We see two sold for 20 bucks. This is 50 cents or a dollar. Great, pick it up. Great margins.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be long gone by the time it even sells in 308 years. In 308 years, it's going to be worth $40,000 because no one's going to have it anymore. It's going to be such a rare antique that the aliens will come purchase for $40,000 from us. So, you
Yeah,
know,
and that's another change in mentality where I think I flipped it. I used to always say to myself, it's okay because you're still going to make a profit. I'm paying £1, so it's going to sell for 9.99 or 12.99. I'm going to
mhm,
make a profit. Look, £1 into £12, you're going to make a profit. But you're right, you don't know how long you're waiting to make that profit.
right.
And like I spoke to you before, now when I get that ka-ching on the phone, and we all love it, that I don't think that will ever go away when you hear that ka-ching noise, the excitement. I now know when I look at my phone, I'm going to feel excited. I'm going to want to race down to the garages and get the item shipped out today instead of first thing tomorrow because it's a good sale. Where beforehand, you might get 10 or 15 ka-chings and they're all 9.99, 12.99, and you're working so hard for little reward.
Yeah, and 9.99, 12.99 that took 308 years to sell.
Yeah.
So I was reading something the other day and someone said that this item turned vintage while I had it listed.
Yeah, I can believe it.
That's not exactly where we want to be. So, there's a couple of things that people get trapped into. They see the low price, low velocity, like low cost of goods, low velocity, but high margin. That's hard to say. You know what? This is a dollar. It's gonna sell for 30, but win. Win is the X factor in that. It might take 308 years for the win. And if that's the
Mhm.
case, we don't have enough time to wait for that because what's gonna happen is all of our money is going to be sitting in our inventory listed, and none of our money is going to be in the bank account. Or we'll do the actives and solds, and we'll see the outlier comp. Like you said, that one sells for 20, but we'll see an outlier of somehow, some way, someone sold it for 67. And we
Yeah.
said, that's good enough. I'll take it. But 67, we have no idea how long. Like, how long did this take? We have no idea. So there are a couple of tools on the internet that you can use. They're not 100% because eBay changes their API from now and then, but you could go to watchcount.com
Mhm.
and you can go over there and it will tell you how long an item has been listed. So that is another tool that you can use. That's watchcount.com. That tool will also tell you when a best offer was accepted, what was the real price. You can also search the title in Terapeak. It will tell you the real price of best offer. And then they have 130 point, which is big in the card community. That will also tell you what best offer was accepted. But on watch count, it's not 100%, but you'll know if it's working because it will tell you like, September 15th, 2022. So you'll know it's working, but that is a good tool where you can see an item that, this item sold, but really how long did it take to sell? Because we don't have that information because it just renews automatically every single time. And if that $67 remote sold and you go to watch count and it took 4.5 years, you have to ask yourself, do I have 4.5 years to turn one into 67? And surface level, fantastic transaction, fantastic investment, one into 67 in 4 years. But we get into this problem where we can't afford to store our items for 12 years because our inventory is going to get bloated, our store size is going to get bloated, and then we have to go out there and get garages and storage units and all this kind of stuff there. So if you have cheap access to storage and your business model is waiting 4 years, you could build a beautiful business on that. However, most people don't have access to 10,000 square feet for the cheap where they could just set it and forget it and just wait, a very long time. So I guess, we talked about it a little bit before. You had the business model of 1 into 20. Who
Yeah.
knows when it sells? And
Mhm.
what was kind of like the breaking point aside from, because we talked with Isaiah too, he went through this too, selling a
Yes.
lot of items, not making a lot of money, but the post office makes money, eBay makes money, all these people that you bought from make money. You're doing all the work, not a lot of money left over. So like what were some of the breaking points or what was kind of the writing on the wall where you were like, you know what, this is like kind of working because you were paying your bills,
Yeah.
kind of working, but there's got to be a better way. because I this is interesting because I was listening to a call on a different thing on YouTube along or maybe like 3 weeks ago, and a lady said that she's been reselling for 10 years and has been to paycheck for 10 years
Yeah.
as a reseller. So like
Mhm.
what are some of the things where like you finally break down and say there's got to be a better way to do this? And I guess how do you figure out the better way to do it?
We speak about it in the group all the time, and you speak about it all the time, and it never clicked with me. But the whole term of knowing your numbers, I kind of used to brush over it quite a lot of the time. I feel like, do you know what? It's not important to know the nitty gritty. Like at the end of the day, I know that I'm roughly paying this amount for this, and I know it's roughly selling for this, so I must be doing okay. But it was that what you just mentioned there. It got to the point in January after Q4, predominantly most people say Q4 is normally their best time of selling. And it got to January, and I remember I was speaking to Luke Waters Clobber on his podcast. And I think it was something he said or something in the chat. And I came off that podcast and I voice noted him and I said, I need to change things. It's not working. And I sat down and worked out how much money I'd actually made. And around that time, our mortgage, I mentioned this in the first podcast, so our mortgage was going up £500 a month. So I'm straight away thinking, right, where am I going to find the extra £500 from? And then when I sat down and I worked it out that I could go and work down the local Tesco's, which is like your Walmart, and I could stack shelves and I would be in a same or if not better position doing that without the stress, without having to like run a business yourself.
Yeah, maybe
And that
better
was, of
because you get to clock out and you got days off.
course, yeah, you switch off. And we know what it's like in the reselling game. We claim we will take the evening off and not think about it, but you're always working in some capacity.
Yeah.
And that was the real eye opener to me. It was the kind of moment where it was do or die in the sense of I say to myself, I can either go back into a recruitment job where I wasn't happy, felt really low a lot of the time, really stressful, KPI driven, a boss over your shoulder telling you what time you can go for a toilet break, or I'm in complete control and only I can change it. So that was the moment. It was kind of the moment of saying, I can only probably do this now for a month or two before it all comes crashing down. So at that point is when I started to actually look into my numbers, started to actually look at the stuff I was buying, started to look at, like we spoke about, the sell-through rate, and actually started to do something else, what you say all the time as well. And recently I forgot this a little bit, but it came back the other day, where you have to spend money to make money.
Mhm.
And I've always been really fearful of spending the money, probably because I didn't have the confidence in the stuff I was buying. So that really put me off when it comes to like deals and stuff, spending the money. So yeah, I kind of realized that maybe I do need to spend up a little bit more on certain items that I know are going to sell really quick and make me more profit. And that's exactly what I've done. And I spoke to you the other month on one of your Tech Tuesday calls, and I said, my issue at the moment is my stuff's selling too quick. And that's crazy to say as a reseller. Like my sell through is like ridiculously good at the moment. I can't grow my store quick enough without it selling, which is not a bad problem to have. But I'm trying to work out a way of how I can get double the amount, or like we spoke about, 10x the amount
Mhm.
of the same quality stuff. Because I don't mind saying I'm super fearful of slipping back into my old habits of just listing it for the sake of listing it. It will do kind of mentality. And I don't want to be again going into next year saying, oh, it's do or die again because I've slipped back to my old habits.
All right, there's a lot there. This is great so far. All right, so when you assess the numbers, and we could talk about, hey, I looked at the numbers and I saw that this isn't working or this wasn't working. There's a lot of people. There's going to be thousands of people that listen to this. I would say probably the majority of them
Mm.
don't have a good fundamental understanding of the numbers. When you actually put pencil to paper, you looked at the numbers, what was the most alarming thing, or what was the thing that kind of slapped you right in the face and said, this isn't working?
There was many months where I was losing money.
But you
And
didn't know.
that really shocked me because I've got a savings account. And what I was finding I was doing some months is I was taking a couple of £100 out of savings. And again, it's all about what you think you're doing. We speak about again cost of goods. When you ask people what's your cost of goods, most people will say £7, $7.
And what do I always say every time? What do I
Yeah,
say?
it can't end in that even number.
I always say it's a
I've
fake
got
number
my
because fake numbers don't end in zero.
correct, and like I've got my cost of goods here. At the moment, it's £11.57. But beforehand, the mentality was, oh yeah, but that was only £6, that was only £5, that was only £2, that was a. But it came to the point where I was thinking each month I'm taking a couple of £100 out of my savings until I sat down and looked at my bank account. And I look at my bank account and say, actually, over the last 6 months, you've took about £4,000 out of your savings just to pay your mortgage. Like that should not be happening.
Mm-mm.
And all of these things really open up your eyes to actually be like, you know what, I'm running a successful business, so actually I'm running a failing business.
So
And
go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, and so when it came to tracking the numbers, it came again from your call where you spoke about how much does it cost for you to wake up in the morning, to turn the lights on in the morning. And it's all them numbers that I didn't realize were creeping into the business. How much is the store fee? How much are the garages? How much do I pay for electric? How much is my internet bill? How much is my phone bill? And then all of my other stuff as well. How much do I pay for my YouTube premium? How much do I pay for StreamYard for YouTube? How much do I spend on X, Y, and Z for YouTube? So I put all them numbers in, and it was coming to days where I was looking at it feeling like I'm just making a loss day after day after day after day. But all I could remember is the really good days, the five, six, £700 sales days. We don't forget them, but we forget the days where it's £80 or £100, and that day I might have lost £150.
Yeah.
So I think sitting down and kind of taking my head out of the sand and just kind of holding my hands up and saying, do you know what? You think you're running a good business, but you're not. And you are moments away from losing all of your savings. And it got to that point and it made me wake up and realize.
So like you said, we did the call many months ago about how much it costs to put your feet on the floor every single day. And when you have your personal costs, if you have a $1,000 mortgage,
Yeah.
$33 a day goes to the mortgage. If you have a $300 bill, $10 a day goes to the bill. So you can add up all these things in your personal life on like how much it costs you to be a human being. And then you need to add up how much these things in your business life on how much it costs to run your business. So if you're listing 10 a day and you spend, $8 per item, you owe your business $80 every single day before you even wake up.
Mhm.
It doesn't even cost, or it doesn't even account for, like you said, miscellaneous internet, poly bags, any sort of return that gets taken out. Just all of these things, they add up, they add up. And like for a lot of people, that was really eye-opening to see, like, as a human being that runs a business, my daily nut that I have to get was $387. Like that's $150,000 a year
I know.
before you even make $1 profit. And it's not that hard in America, maybe not even in the UK, to be a business owner, an eBay seller, and to run a personal life where like you got to come out $150,000 before you even turn $1 profit. So,
Yeah.
I challenge everybody who's listening to this, do an audit of your personal bills, look at your reoccurring stuff, like James said, gas, eating out, mortgage, rent, lights, electric, everything like that, miscellaneous spending. And then we also have to audit our business. And this is something that we should do from time to time, and then we can notice leakage that happens here and there. So, like, am I starting to get, loosey goosey in the business? Am I starting to get loosey goosey in my personal life? And we'll do that call again coming back up because that was about 6 months ago. And
Yeah.
and and we're gonna compare. We're gonna see. We're gonna say, okay, because all these people that did it 6 months ago, where are you now? Are you up? Are you down? Is your money up? Is your money down? So if your expenses go up and your sales and profit goes up, hey, that's okay. But if your sales and if your expenses go up and your sales and profits stay the same, we have voluntarily taken a pay cut on this. Um, as far as that goes, so now you said you from time to time, you know, get worried about the bad habits that creep back into the business.
Yeah.
What are some of the bad habits that you face that you can see that you can feel?
I think it's I create my own bad habits myself. it's a James problem. I was listening to a podcast the other day where they spoke about it's not a universal problem, it's a you problem. And
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of my bad habits are created by myself. So again, I was reflecting on things this morning. I feel I've got plenty of time to be so much further ahead than where I am right now. But I feel, and I'll be interested to know your thoughts on this. And I was speaking to, again, Luke this morning on this. I've set a daily goal of 12 listings a day. But then I feel I'd be better setting a listing goal of, say, 20 a day and hitting 18, 20, 19, 17, because I feel like I hit the 12 and I literally take my foot off the gas. Apart from sourcing, I could be done by 8 in the morning, go to the gym, come back, source on Vinted. But yesterday I managed to do 46. Today I've managed to do 35. And so I feel like I'm holding myself back. And yes, we have a sourcing problem in the UK. Now, it's not impossible to source from in the UK. People are doing it, people are doing high numbers. But I don't know whether this whole block of 12 is actually doing me like a disservice. And this comes from the conversation we had the other day when I put into the group about I'm looking to 2x my business. And you come straight in and said 10x, not 2x, 10x. And I couldn't get my head around it, first of all, but it makes sense where if I said I'm going to 10x my business, I might be able to achieve 5, 6, 7x. That's still a lot better than the 2x. So I think what I do is it's a personal thing for me. I kind of put this cap on it and I won't ever want to go over my cap. When actually I probably need to say the 12's the minimum I list today compared to the maximum.
Absolutely. So when it comes to that, 12 a day versus 20 a day, can your business afford to do 20 per day? Do
Yeah,
do the
I've got,
numbers add up? Because like you
yeah,
said, your cost of goods is around 11. Can
yeah.
your business afford to do 20 a day?
Yeah, I've got the cash in the business now to afford to do it, especially with the car boot sales coming back. Because the car boot sales really bring the cost of goods down. I can go to a car boot and this weekend got 36 items for £64.
Hmm.
So the cost of goods dropped dramatically. The trouble is, the flip side to car boots and vintage, you don't normally see the vintage stuff at the car boot. You
That's what I was
can
going to
get
ask
it,
you.
but you don't see it all the time. So where I'm at the car boot and I might be spending £2 on an item, it might sell for 20 to 25, which still hits my metrics. But where I'm being really careful of this year to not let them bad habits like kick in is now I'm checking the sell through. So now I'm concentrating on the sell through to make sure it ticks that metric as well, instead of just ticking the monetary metric.
So the items that you're buying, that you're sniping, the average sale price is around what?
Uh, on the items I'm sniping, I aim for a minimum of 15.
Okay.
But the stuff I snipe, I mean, some stuff is £10 into, a couple of hundred, but I aim for an average of 15.
An average profit of 15?
Profit of 15, yeah.
Gotcha. And the stuff at the car boot, do you find yourself picking up lesser than items just because they're cheaper?
Not really anymore. I used to. But now the average at the car boot is 12 to 15, I would say, because you're spending a lot less. We're talking you're spending £1 or £2 at the car boot to maybe 10 or 15 on Vinted.
At the car boot, how hard is it to look at items that you've sold before 10 times, 20 times, and then leave those and walk past?
Super, super, super difficult. And again, something else I'm adding into the business, because where I'll speak about numbers in a minute and where I am to where I should be at this point in the year, because we had a conversation at the start of the year and I said to you, I looked down the camera and I said, I will hit that 100K.
Hmm.
And at the moment, I'm tracking about 7,000 behind where I should be at this point. So we're still not where it is, but the business is up 21.8% currently from
Nice,
where it was at the start of the year.
nice,
The ASP is up 17.1% as well. So that's on the rise, which is good.
nice.
But I spoke to you the other day about the proudness of being a clothing seller. So it took me 2.5 years of being in the group to finally hit the point of saying, yeah, do you know what? People are right. I need to niche down. It makes perfect sense. I see it now myself. I get it. And then when I've gone to the car boots, I've walked past stuff, like you say, that I've sold many a times over that I know hits the sell-through rate that's going to make me great profit. I've looked it on the floor and I've said, no, you can't buy that because you're a clothing seller. And I know when we spoke the other day, you said money's green at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So my mentality now at the car boot, I've kind of let myself go a little bit in the sense of as long as the sell-through is still there, what's the harm in picking up them extra bits on top of the clothing as well? So I'm thinking at the moment now what I want to do because the car boot sale videos for me when I record as well, they're a lot more interesting for the viewer when I pick up a mixture of stuff. And the comments I get on my videos is I'm glad you pick up the odd other stuff as well as clothing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what my plans are for June onwards is to create a secondary store within my store, which is going to be 5 items every single day, non-clothing, but they still have to hit my metrics. They still have to hit the sell through, and they don't have to be these big bulky items where I'm going to have to buy loads of bubble wrap and boxes and all this
Sure.
stuff. I want it to hit my current sort of postage ways and stuff. So that's what I'm thinking of at the moment, but I don't want to take away my goal of continuing to learn clothing because if you gave me two options to be 100% clothing or a mix of everything in clothing, I'm picking clothing. But I just don't feel I know enough at this stage to earn the money I want to earn.
So the only complication with doing that, like I said, the money is green at the end of the day. And so long as we stick with our sell through and stick with our profit margins, it is what it is. The only complication to that is what you said, what you alluded to is that we all have a storage setup that we use. And if you're
Mhm.
out here buying a wagon or a bicycle, it doesn't fit into your storage situation. So now you have one storage situation and you got this pile of stuff that's unorganized that can lead to some kind of issue. So, or you have the complexity of now you need a big box, now you need a bunch of bubble wrap, now you need a bunch of packing peanuts. And then after that, it becomes not worth it because you may as well just pick up a t-shirt for the same
Yeah.
amount of money for the less complexity, and then it goes into our regular storage setup. So I guess that's something that you're being careful of, the size and the bulkiness and the storage of it.
Yeah, funny story with the bulky stuff. I've said live on YouTube, like I'm gonna pick up the odd everything stuff, but it's not gonna be bulky stuff. It's not gonna be the big like VCR players, the hi-fi systems.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the car boot and talking about old habits coming in, went to the car boot sale the other week and there was a big Sony stack with the two speakers. And I made the mistake of asking the person, how much is this? And it was so cheap, I couldn't then say no. So I brought
Oh,
it, and this is a funny story, and this was a harsh lesson for anyone. Put it in the van, and guess where it stayed all week?
in the
In the
van.
Went to the next car boot sale, spoke to a guy I know who deals in electronics, another reseller, and I said, look, buy it off me for £20. I'll make a £10 loss, I don't care. Because
Yeah,
I'm not going to list it. But I now know I'll never make that mistake again. Because I've felt the pain of picking something up, putting it in the van, regretting it instantly, seeing it stay in the van, and then make a £10 loss at the next car boot sale to another retailer who might sell it for 150. Great,
right.
hope you do. So I'm learning them harsh lessons now that I just don't ask anymore. So if I see something bulky and cool that I used to buy, I won't even ask the price because if I ask the price, I might get suckered in again.
Sure. And all money is green except for the money that we lose. That money puts us in the red.
Yeah,
So
a
we
£10 loss.
cannot lose money. That's the first rule. So what do you think it is where we see the item, we go against our better judgment and ask the price, and then we purchase it, even though you sit here and say you're not going to do it. You went
Yeah,
to the flea market that morning and said you're not going to do it.
yeah,
You walked up and you looked at it and said, I'm not going to do it.
yeah.
Is it like lack of self-control? Is it greed that takes over us? What makes us go against the bad decision?
I've got the word because I said it to myself driving away from that car boot sale. Desperation. That car boot sale was not going well. I hadn't found
Hmm.
any good items. I looked in the trolley and there was only 4 or 5 items. I saw an opportunity and I took it. Funnily enough, the next row I went to, I got 30 pieces of clothing from one stall. it or we say it all the time, it only takes one store. And again, I've had it for 3 car
That's
boot
right.
sales in a row. One store where I'm coming up with like 30 to 50 pieces per store that all hit the
That's right.
metrics.
That's right.
It's that word desperation where you look around, you start feeling like, "Do you know what, I'm rubbish. I'm not good at this. I've got up at 5 in the morning and I'm going to walk away with nothing. How embarrassing." And the desperation kicks in. So when I drove away from that car boot sale, I felt desperate and also I felt embarrassed. I felt like, "Do you know what? I'm not going to put this on the YouTube video because I know people in the comments are going to say, you said you're not going to do this." But I'm like, no, I'm going to show it because I need to put myself out there that I failed for myself. So
So
desperation.
so if and a lot of people can relate to this. This is a great conversation. So do your metrics decrease if you're having a bad day? Do you let the sell through expand? Do you let the profit go down? Because there's a lot of people, they when they're at the thrift store, they're doing the thrift route, and if they're not hitting, you best believe they start picking up items that are less than.
Yeah. The weirdest thing is I won't pick up a clothing item that doesn't hit the metrics at the car boot because I source clothing 100% Monday to Friday. It's
Hmm.
all clothing. So I know to myself, "Do you know what? If I don't get them items of clothing today at the car boot sale, I can come home, jump on Vinted for the rest of the day and get what I need to get."
Hmm.
So the clothing at the car boot is a bit like an extra thing. But yeah, definitely on the other stuff, I get to the point of saying, well, I need to get something so that will do. And I think that that will do mentality creeps into a lot of resellers. Like you say, if you was to go out to the thrift stores all day in America and you was to go around 20 stores and only have one item and you have one more store left, that's when I think you would end up probably coming away with 20 items from that one store. But when you got home, there'll be 20 items that you'll probably never list, or they'll sit in a pile that you'll just never get to and you'll redonate them anyway. Because the regret will kick in quite quickly because we've all done it. We've all come back and said, "Why did I buy this?" But when you're in the moment, you feel like
Hmm.
I've got to buy it.
Yeah,
It's weird. It's like an addiction. It's weird.
well, you have to because you're running this calculation of like, I spent all this time and I'm gonna go home with nothing. So like it wasn't worth my time. And like as resellers, we have to be profitable on every portion of our day. So like if we spend 4 hours sourcing, we need to come home with X amount of dollars in profit. But you know, like you said, it either ends up in the corner not listed or it ends up listed and never selling. And that's worse because I
Yeah.
would rather leave them at the store and save $200 and have a
Correct.
better opportunity with the 200 than to spend the 200, bring it home, do all the work, list it, and then it never sells because now you have $200 locked away. And you know, a lot of people fall into the trap, and even me, like I'm guilty of this in my earlier reselling career, where you know I would be on the thrift route, and if I wasn't hitting my acceptability started to creep down, and I'm picking up items that you know, had I been hitting really hard, I would not have picked up. But something that really helped me with that is, and I talked with Isaiah this weekend about this, is that always working from ahead helped me a lot with that. So if I go on a thrift route and I have a queue at home of 5 days, it doesn't matter if I strike out today. I have 5 days of beautiful items at home. I'll just go into the queue, I'll list, and I'll catch them tomorrow. Because, like you said, all it takes is one store, one vendor at the flea market, and
Yeah.
that's it. And if people, when they watch my videos, I'm not buying 100 different things from 100 different vendors.
Yeah.
I'm buying 25 things from this guy, 10 things from this lady, five
Yeah.
things over here, so on and so forth. And I went to a flea market on Monday, and with one vendor, I spent $2,100. So I
Mhm.
got tons, like well over 100 pieces, 200 pieces from this person. And had I not bought from that person, the rest of the stuff that I got was just not even worth mentioning. I might have maybe got 30 additional items that were, you know, some good ones, some not, but like not worth the trip at that point. But the one vendor always saves the day, always changes the day. Or you leave the flea market and you go somewhere else. You go to another market. You go hit a thrift route on the way home
Yeah.
if you don't meet the goal, because there's always another opportunity. There's always another door to walk into, another person to talk to where like when we leave that flea market and we didn't do great, it's not like a game show where like you have to do great before you leave the flea market, otherwise
Yeah.
you're done. No, you can walk out of the flea market with nothing and you can go buy something else somewhere else, because most times when you're in that desperate position, the
Mhm.
best deal is no deal.
No deal. And
No
I've
deal.
found that when sometimes I've walked out of car boot sales with zero, no items, and I've come away feeling happy because
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Do you know what? There was nothing there for me." And you mentioned it earlier in the sense of when I go to the car boot sales now, I don't feel any pressure when it comes to clothing because I source enough Monday to Friday to know that I'm going to have enough what I need.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go to the car boot sale now, there's no pressure on me when it comes to the clothing side to make sure, oh, I've got to get X amount. It's the extra bits on top. But then that's when also I feel it's a negative because that's when I let things slip a little bit. Where on Vinted, it's very hard for me to make mistakes. And I think that's because I'm paying a bit more money.
Mm-hmm.
When it's so cheap at the car boot sale, sometimes you kind of let that thing go where you think about sell-through for a split second because you're like, it's so cheap. I've got to get it because it's so cheap.
Mm-hmm.
There and then I've got it in hand. Like, how can I leave that behind? And I'm trying to move out of that mentality to sometimes that it's okay to leave the cheap stuff behind. Let someone else sell that for £10. You
Yeah.
don't need to do that anymore. And
Yeah.
that's been a real switch for me this year. And even this weekend, like some items I'm picking up and they're asking £10 and I'm like, well, I could get 25, but most of them are going for 20, but some are going for 15. Beforehand, I would have said, let me buy it, list it for 25, and it might never sell at that price. Now I leave it behind. So I'm slowly getting there, but look, the temptation's always there.
So you're leaving behind items, you're saying no to items that you used to purchase.
Mm.
Inventory is tough to come across in the UK. You guys have the challenges which we've talked about before. Doing all this, are you still able to find more items than you could easily than you could want? Is there still like almost unlimited access to inventory, even though we're leaving stuff behind and we've changed our entire business model and we're even spending more money?
Yeah, I think so. And I mentioned it the other day as well. I think the thing I've been doing a lot of the time, especially in the last couple of months, I've been waiting for it to come to me. So I've been less active with going out and getting it. This is going to sound really stupid. I'm just going to say it. I'm kind of waiting for that person at the car boot sale, a phone call, a message to come through to my phone to say, I have a lockup full of dead stock stuff, 10,000 pieces, pound a piece, come and buy a lot. I'm kind of expecting that just to happen and fall in my lap
Mm-hmm.
instead of going out and getting it. And with going to the car boots, I've been trying to make a lot more connections, making connections with house clearance people, letting them know who I am, letting them know I'm a good buyer. Even got a house clearance person now who will actually deliver the stock to me here, which is good. But again, I don't want to fall into the trap of just taking everything because it's cheap.
Sure.
So again, I'm letting them know what kind of things I like, letting them know next time I see them at the car boot. Last time there was a few of this in there. I don't want this again. But that other stuff, that's the kind of stuff I want you to get for me. So I'm
Nice.
trying to make a bit more of a connection to the car boot and stuff, which is really helping. But I'm just being a lot more proactive with actually saying it's not going to fall on my lap. I've
Mm-hmm.
got to go and get it. And when I
Yep.
get an opportunity, I've then got to work hard to make the money. Because it's okay having all this stock brought to you, but if you're not proactive in listing it, it's just money sitting there doing nothing.
That's right. And I think a lot of reselling comes down to the urgency to make something happen. So
Mhm.
like when I'm talking to you guys on the calls, like I think there's a urgency that I got to make this happen. Like I'm always looking to make something happen. The other day there was a couch, 3 or 4 houses down. I picked that thing up, I put it on my front curb and sold it for $100 on OfferUp. I have
Yeah.
no business doing that, but $100 is $100. I see value. I have an urgency to get the money. When
Mhm.
when I'm out at the flea market, I have an urgency to win the flea market, get as much stuff as possible, find the best item, make the most amount of connections. And through the whole evolution of me going to the flea market on YouTube, I started going to flea markets that were many hours away. I've never been to, didn't even know their name, didn't even know where they were, made didn't know anybody out there, rather than just going to the one down the street where I'm already the president. Everyone knows me. I have all the connections. I
Yeah.
went far away, did good deals, met good people, had reoccurring business over and over and over again. And just this weekend, I probably got 6 or 7 phone numbers of people who are like, I get this stuff all the time. I'll start sending you messages. And one of the great deals that I made this weekend was from a guy that I met a couple of weeks earlier, and he brought a bunch of stuff to the flea market. He's another buyer. He's a buyer just like us. He found a bunch of stuff, brought it back to the flea market so I could do the deal with him, just about making that connection and doing good business. So that's something that you're starting to do now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the connections is a big thing. I think
Mm-hmm.
even just because I go to the same car boot sales every Saturday, every Sunday, car boot sales. So the other resellers know me as well. And I've made friends with them, made connections with them. They know what I'm looking for when it comes to clothing. A lot of them don't have any interest in clothing. So sometimes I will see something that I'm not going to sell, but I know one of them sells all the time, and I'll buy it for them. £5
Mm-hmm.
I'll buy it. And I'll go and take it over to them and say, oh, grab this, thought of you, put it in their trolley. Next week, they will do the same kind of thing for me.
Sure.
And a couple of funny things happened at the car boot, two funny stories. So there's one guy at the Saturday car boot who only buys golf clubs and golf bags.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be in competition with him at the car boot sale because I used to sell the golf bags, go for good money, sell the clubs, go for good money. Nightmare to
Right.
back, but anyway.
Right.
He come up to me last Saturday and said, there's a guy over there who said he's got loads of golf clothing in his car, but he doesn't know whether he's going to bring it into the field because it's a journey, blah, blah, blah. So I went over to the guy on the stall and I said, oh, I've heard you've got loads of golf clothing. He was like, yeah, but it's a nightmare for me to bring it over. And I said, here, I use my trolley. So I
Mm-hmm.
gave him my wagon trolley, helped him bring the stuff over, ended up buying the whole bag of golf clothing, Callaway, all this other stuff for
Nice.
£100 there and then. All the other
Nice.
resellers trying to get in, deals done, move
Yep.
on.
That's right.
So I think sometimes speak to your other resellers at the car boot sales and actually let them
Absolutely.
know what you do. And, we can all win. And so now when I go to the car boot, it's like, it's good competition, it's friendly competition. But the other funny story, and you mention it all the time about negotiating at the car boot. Now, I like negotiating, I like getting a bargain, but I made a big mistake this Saturday, which is going to make me think twice because I tried to negotiate £1 off an item. The guy stuck firm at his price, had to pay the £6 instead of the five. Okay, great, paid the money, moved on to the next stall. And this lady had just put out a Olympus Mue camera that I will always pick up, and they sell for easily £150. She asked a pound, and there was a guy just before me who picked it up and paid the pound.
That's the
So
same
if I
story
would
I
have
told you
not,
guys.
yeah, if I would have not negotiated to try and save a pound, I could have made £150 at the next stall. So now it's made me think twice. And what I done on Monday at the car boot, when people were asking the price, it's fair price, I'll pay it, move on. Let's go, let's go. And I ended up filling 2 IKEA bags because I wasn't spending all my time trying to negotiate a pound.
That's
It's
what I'm,
crazy. It makes
that's the
perfect
same exact story that happened to me. When I first started going to the flea market, the guy that I perceived as my competition, he would
Yeah,
always negotiate. If it was five, he would try three, he would settle four.
yeah,
One time I turned a corner and he was holding something that was good. It was maybe worth $100. The lady asked five, he said three, they settled at four. Not even an arm's length past him on a different booth, there
yeah,
was a Nintendo Game Boy Advance for
yeah,
$1. And those things sell, back then, 80 to $100. And had he paid the five, turned and went like this on the next table on the next vendor, he would have picked that up and made another $100.
yeah,
Same exact thing that happened to me. And it's funny that you say that when you don't spend all your time negotiating, you spend all your time running around shopping, you find
mhm,
way more items. That's the secret. That's why I find the most items at the flea market is
yeah,
because while everyone else does one lap because they spend all their time negotiating, I'm doing 4 or 5 laps, meeting 4 or 5 times more people, buying 4 or 5 times more items because I'm saying thank you very much, thank you very much, thank you very much, thank you very much, moving with an urgency, moving with some pep in my step, moving with some speed, identifying items on the table, not having to look them up. Okay, this is worth 30. You say $3. I don't need to say one. I don't need to say
yeah,
two. Bang, let
yeah.
me pick it up. 30 hits the metric. And I'm going to argue this. I'm going to put this out there. If we have to negotiate one, two, three, $4 on an item, is that item even good enough to pick up?
That is a
Because
bad idea.
if $1 is going to make or break the profitability, that is not a good item for us to pick up. We
Yeah,
should be picking up items that have such a spread, $20, $30, $50, where $2 doesn't matter.
yeah,
$3, for even $5 doesn't matter. So like if we have to negotiate so hard where we got to get it from 5 to 3, and now because of 3, now it's profitable, I ask you, is that even a good enough item to pick up? Because if it's good for 3, it should be good for 5.
yeah, absolutely. You spoke there about urgency, and Monday again, I had an hour and a half at the car boot sale, 1 hour 30 at the car boot sale. Had to get around because I had other plans. And actually, I had a more successful day when I was under that clock because I think I was a lot more focused. I think sometimes when I go to the car boot sales, it's a bit like, well, I've got all morning, casual stroll, but I was
Oh
hyper
no.
focused. I was on it. People were trying to like say, hi James, how I'm like, can't, I've only got an hour and a half, and I was on it, and they didn't take offense. But I think sometimes I need to go to the car boot sale with the mindset of this is game time, this is work. Because sometimes I can go and I can be quite casual and chat to people and, oh, okay, never mind, I've missed out on that. So I think my mentality now is I'm going to set myself that game clock to say you've got an hour and a half, you've got to get the stuff within that time. Because even having that hard cut-off deadline just made me a lot more efficient in the car boot as well.
Well, every week you have an hour and a half. You know that because
Yeah.
do you know what the golden hour is?
Well, it's really weird because sometimes we'll arrive at our car boot sale at 5:30 and nothing really gets going until 7. Because I
Right,
don't know the same as your flea markets, the clothing people always put stuff out last.
right. But that golden hour, once the sun starts coming up,
Yeah.
you
It's
got
got-
1 hour, 1 hour and a half to
Yeah.
get all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Same thing at garage sales. They got that golden hour, that 1 hour when they open, that's when all the stuff gets sold. Because there's a difference between a 1 hour garage sale and one that's been open for 4 hours. The one that's been
Absolutely.
open for 4 hours, everything was gone in that golden hour. So, like, we all have 1 hour, 1 hour and a half of urgency at every single flea market and garage sale during that golden hour, that golden period of the sun just coming up, the
Yeah.
people are just arriving, and the good stuff is just hitting the table. That's
Mm.
that golden hour. After that, everyone's done some laps. You've done a few laps. After that, bring it down a little bit, not running around as much. Now, much more in depth, looking for stuff that other people have missed. So, that golden hour for me, I'm doing 2 or 3 laps, quick,
Yeah.
fast, in and out, in and out, in and out, because the first row you're hitting, maybe there's not a lot of stuff out. But by the time you finish the route and you go back to the first row, now they have more stuff, more opportunity. So, like, that golden hour for me is of the utmost urgency. After that, I slow down my tempo, slow down my pace, do a little bit more in-depth searching, but I want to get those best items that hit the table. I want to get those best items that get hung up. This weekend, I went to a flea market and I swear to you, I turned right, the third stall on the left. I buy from this lady pretty frequently. She goes to the bins. I bought 19 William Murray golf polos
Mhm.
and I got them for $4 each. And they were the beautiful geometric patterns. Each one of them is going to sell for 75 to 100. That's in the golden hour. So, like, those got, I was literally buying them as she was hanging up the rest of them.
Yeah.
So I'm taking them off the thing and she's
She's
still
put
trying
them.
to hang them up. And I just said, nope, I'll take all those. And I took them all down. Had I been 2 minutes late, 3 minutes late, 5 minutes late, that deal's gone off the table. And turning 4 into 75, 19 times, that's why you wake up in the morning and get out there first.
Yeah. And I like that. I like being at the car boot sale first
Mm-hmm.
because I had a comment on a video the other day to say, like, you get to the car boot, but it seems like at the start of your video, all the resellers are just kind of hovering, hanging around. And I was like, I don't mind if it means hanging around for a second. Because
Mm-hmm.
I know as soon as that next car turns up and they pull out the grails, like
Yep,
I'm ready to go.
that's
And
right.
so yeah, you're completely right. If you're not first at the car boot or flea market, you are last, as far
That's
as I'm.
right.
So
Yeah.
I'm always
So,
there, crack a
but
dawn.
so like you got to carry that urgency of that hour, hour and a half. You have an hour and an hour and a half, even if you got all day, you got
Yeah,
an hour to get the bulk, the majority of the items that you're going to get today. because after that, they're all gone. Just like that camera that got put on the table gets taken
Yeah.
right off the table that fast. And
Mm.
those are the items where some of it is luck, where you have to be there the right place at the right time, but some of it is taking the opportunity to be at the right place at the right time. And for me, I say it all the time, I want to have the most knowledge and the most opportunities. And for me, the most opportunities is getting there in the golden hour and doing as many laps as possible, because even though maybe they're the same possibilities, because I already went past here 30 minutes ago, it's a
Sure.
new opportunity because there's new items on the table rather than going very slowly, working, walking, talking, hanging out, getting a cup of coffee, doing this, doing that. You got to get there prepared, ready to rock and roll right during that golden hour. After that, hang out, do what you want to do. But that first hour is where I make all my money.
Yeah, and I
So,
think I think I've been guilty of doing that. I think it's kind of like turning up and having a casual chin wag with people, and then other people stop you. I mean, you probably notice this a lot more as well, especially now you put yourself out on the internet and like YouTube and stuff. You must get people come up to you at the flea market who want to talk for 15, 20 minutes and stuff. So for me, it's
I
finding the balance between kind of being polite, like we're
mhm,
here to work, and being rude and just ignoring, So it's
sure.
trying to balance.
So if it's during the golden hour, they say, "Hey, I watched the videos." I stay walking, give them a pound and say, "I hope they're helpful," and I'm up the road. If
Yeah,
it's after the golden hour,
your
I
chat.
spend 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it takes. But during the
Yeah,
golden hour,
it's game time.
they know I got to keep it moving. They got to keep it moving.
Yeah,
So, and everyone who's met me, hey, do it politely. Hey, I hope the videos are helpful. What do you buy? Good luck today. Boom, up the road. But if it's
right.
after the golden hour, hey, I'll talk for as long as it takes, because all the money is made during the golden hour and
Yeah.
cannot be, not doing laps, running around, getting as much stuff as possible. All right. So a couple of weeks ago or last week, you made a post that you're going to 2x the business. And I
Mm.
said, I said 10x the business.
Yeah.
And like you said, it took you a little while to wrap your head around it. I guess what was the thought process? Because 2xing your business is beautiful,
Mm.
but 10xing your business is probably impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible today. But
Yeah.
why did you figure out workout that it's better to think in the philosophy of 10xing the business rather than 2xing the business? Because you asked and I let it sit. Let
Hmm.
I let it work out.
It was quite funny because I think again, where my head goes to, 2x is achievable because
Hmm.
I believe I could 2x my business today, kind of thing. Like start to 2x my business today because I would set a new goal and I'd push to the goal. When I think of 10x, I think of 120 items every single day. And then where my head went to, I'm just going to talk about how my brain processed it. I went to, but that's what tech used to do.
Hmm.
Like we cannot find enough stuff. I cannot process that much. I couldn't deal with 120 sales and then posting every day. So straight away, I sort of disregarded like 10x is impossible because I've read the 10x like book and stuff, and like I take all of that away. But it was actually when we spoke in the UK call about it, it was Hunley who put in the side chat, and I'm really grateful, where she said, think about 10x. And if you hit, like we spoke about earlier, if you hit the 3x, 4x, 5x, it's still a lot better than the 2x you're planning to hit.
That's right.
So I think sometimes I need to stretch my goals a bit further and actually probably believe in myself a bit more to say, like, set these stretch goals, knowing that if you come even close to it,
Hmm.
you're absolutely smashing the game.
That's right. And Haley and I, we've had this conversation a lot too about, 10xing versus 2xing.
Mm.
And the difference for me between a 10x mind state and a 2x mind state is that if I'm trying to do 10 times of what I do today,
Yeah.
it's a whole different person. It's a whole different mind state. It's a whole different mentality. It's not the same person that you see here today, because 10xing the podcast would be me putting out 10 podcasts per week.
Yeah.
That's different mind state. That's a different movement, a different person than what you see right now doing one podcast per week. Can I
Mm.
do it? Absolutely, I can. But what is it going to take to do it? I need to network more. I need to find more guests. I need to be way more prepared. I need to have way more time. I need to have a way better schedule. I have to do a lot of different stuff. But can I do it? Absolutely, 100% I can. So for you, you think of the daunting task of finding 120 per day.
Yeah.
And even though it's very difficult to do, you know how to find 12 a day, right?
Yeah.
All right, what does 12 a day look like? How do you find 12 items a day? Typical day.
Yeah, a typical day. At the moment, my sniping's improved on Vinted. I think the knowledge is slowly improving. And I'm also getting my head to a position tech where I'm feeling like I don't need to know every single brand, every single item. I can just keep picking up the same kind of things
Sure.
done as a quick sell through, blah, blah, blah. So I would say at the moment, I can have my whole eBay day. The processing part of my day is done by 8:30 in the morning, every single day, completely
Mm-hmm.
finished. And then
Mm-hmm.
we go sniping normally from 11, and I have up until normally 6 p.m., which is my cutoff because home life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So between the hours of 11 and 6, I get my 12, but I don't have that as a daily target. I have it as a weekly target. So I
Sure.
don't just stop. If it gets to 1 o'clock and I've got my 12, I carry on because
Sure.
guess what? Next day might be tougher.
Sure.
So can I get 12? Absolutely. Could I get 20 right now online every single day? My brain straight away goes to like, no, I couldn't do it. It's impossible. But I haven't really tried,
Right.
to be
But
honest
that's
with you.
fine. So we know what the 12 a day looks like, right?
Yeah.
You know how to do 12 a day.
It's too comfortable though. I'm
Well, that's
sitting here,
okay.
I'm cruising.
Tell me how you would get to 120 items a day. You know what it looks like. Visualize it. How would you get to 120 a day? What would you need to do? What would you need to build out? Where would you need to be to get 120 items every single day with what you're doing right now?
There's there's one answer, and it's this thing I've been saying all year. Knowledge.
Knowledge.
It's improving my knowledge because I've got the time to physically get that many a day. Like wake hours in the day, I've got that time to get. Could that be done completely online? I don't think it's possible for a number of reasons.
Perfect.
I think the cash flow is impossible right now to get that many online.
Mm-hmm.
Also, little stumbling blocks. After about 25 transactions, your card gets blocked for the day. So I'll have to have 4 or 5 different business bank cards, which I don't have right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I would have to find other ways to source.
Go ahead. Keep going. Keep working it
I'd,
out.
I'd have to make more contacts
Mm-hmm.
who could get me a supply. I
Mm-hmm.
might have to do something that I don't like doing and go to charity shops and venture
Mm-hmm.
into there a bit more. I'd
Mm-hmm.
probably have to go to the midweek car boot sale, have opportunities to go to car boot sale Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday if I wanted to do so.
Yep.
Um, I'm just going to have to stretch myself further. And I think, like I said earlier, I feel embarrassed to say it, but I feel I coast a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I just do what needs to be done instead of actually looking at the business and saying you could achieve so much more.
So if today you decide to turn into an animal and you set up 4 or 5 accounts, you set out to make 4 or 5 connections per week, you set out to go to charity stores every day, you,
Yeah.
you set out to go to the midweek car boots, all of this stuff, if you decide to stretch yourself out of being comfortable, if you set up all the bank accounts, made all these connections, went to all the charity stores, went to all the boot sale opportunities, you would be able to find 120 a day.
I want to say yes, but there's
Right.
a part of me that doesn't believe in myself that I would.
Okay. If you took all of this action
Mhm.
and you did this for an entire year, it's going to
Yeah.
be sacrifice. It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. There are going to be hurdles, stumbling blocks. You're going to trip, fall.
Yeah.
This is an attempt to 10x the business.
Mhm.
Even if this went horribly wrong,
Yeah.
how many pieces would you be able to find if you got 4 or 5 bank accounts for Vinted, if you made a bunch of connections, if you went to all the charity shops, if you started going to the boot sale, even in the midweek, even if it went horribly wrong, tell me you can't get 50 items a day doing that.
Yeah. 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 Five. Yeah. I know where you're going with this. So 5x is now sounds really achievable.
Horribly wrong,
Yeah.
you're
I mean,
5xing.
yeah, horribly wrong's 5x in, which is mad because the best, when I put that post out, the best in my own brain was double. That was the
Right.
best. It can't
Right.
get
But
better than
but
that.
but double, even if it go if you go horribly wrong doubling, you're in the same place.
Yeah.
If you go horribly wrong taking this amount of action,
Yeah.
there is no way in hell you don't come home with 50 pieces a day doing this.
Yeah.
So that is the exercise of what is it going to take to do 10 times of what I'm doing today? And if it goes great, you 10x.
Yeah.
If it goes horribly wrong, your
You find it.
business is 5 times of what it is today. And
Yeah.
4 or 5 bank accounts, not that hard to achieve.
Yeah.
Making 4 or 5 connections a month, not that hard to achieve. Hitting a couple charity shops, not that hard to achieve. Hitting the midweek boot sales, not that hard to achieve.
Yeah.
It all comes down to stretching. And if you did these things, there is no way that your business, your profit, your life would not be in a different position than what it is today.
It comes down to wanting it enough.
That's
And I
right.
speak about this for YouTube as well. The whole term of like, we can all sit here and say, I want to be doing this. I want to be earning all this money. I want to be doing X, Y, and Z. I want to grow the business to the point of where like financial freedom. But
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes I have to question my own self to say, how much does James want this? Like, does James really want to go to their midweek car boot sales? Does he really want to go to the charity shops? Does he really want to make all these connections? Does he really want to get to the point of where I'm saying, Tech, I'm going to have to hire someone to help me with the photos now because I've got all this stuff coming through that hits the metrics and I need to focus more on continuing sourcing?
Right.
And the answer is yes. Like, I do want it, but I feel there's a block that stopped me wanting to get it. And I think you might have nailed it there. That I set this goal, which isn't stretched. It's a goal where I feel I can easily achieve. And so I'll just coast to the goal instead of actually pushing myself to a level where I feel uncomfortable, maybe. Maybe I need to feel uncomfortable at the point of saying, whoa, this 10x model's difficult. This is uncomfortable, but we're still hitting some crazy numbers. And look where I was compared to 3 months ago, you know?
Well, James, if your store's not growing, you're listing 12, selling 12. Imagine listing 30, selling 30. How much money would you have in your bank account? Where would you be? Imagine
Well,
listing 50,
yeah.
selling 50. How much money would you have in your bank account? Where would you be?
Yeah. And I want to be in that position, Tech, honestly, where the bills are coming out and it doesn't phase me.
It doesn't
I'm
even
not
matter.
having to check we've got enough money in the account to pay the mortgage. It's a case
That's
of
it.
mortgage comes out, that's good, but I know the account's going up, the bank's growing.
That's
And
right.
that's where I get to. So where I am right now, we're not uncomfortable. I would say we're comfortable, but we're not flying,
Right.
you know.
But just think about where your life would be if you could be 30 up, 30 out.
Incredible place.
You would be no worries in
Incredible.
the world. I don't even care if they raise my mortgage $500 next year too. It would not even matter.
No, we're
But in
being
order to get there, we have to take this action. And something someone told me a long time ago is easy money ain't good and good money ain't easy.
yeah,
So right now we take it easy. The money ain't as good as if, the alternative.
yeah,
So good money is not easy. Good money is a result of taking all of this extra action that is out there, that is available to us, but it's not easy. It's not easy. And if you ask me, all these opportunities here, I didn't know you guys had that available. If I'm in the UK, best believe I'm at the midweek flea market.
yeah,
Best believe I'm not missing that because I want to be 30 up, 30 out.
yeah,
I want to be 50 up, 50 out. That's where I want to be. I have the hunger for that because I know and I have seen how beautiful of a lifestyle that you could build just by going to the flea market a little bit extra, just by making a couple extra connections, just by popping into a couple charity shops. That difference right there, you going to the midweek garage sale, you making, you know, 3 or 4 extra connections per month, you popping into an extra charity shop here and there, that's going to make you an extra $100,000 profit this year.
yeah, yeah.
Is
And
there a way? Is there a way that does not make you an extra 100,000?
it's impossible not to.
So what
That's
are
the
we doing? What are we
It's
doing?
impossible not to. There's no excuse for it. I'm not pushing myself enough, and I don't know why I'm not. Because I used to. Because when I worked in sales, when I worked in recruitment, you better believe it. When I had these targets, I'm not missing. I'm
Sure.
not missing that KPI target because I want that commission payment. Like, there's no way. If you're telling me I need to recruit 40 people, I'm recruiting 45. But I think when the mentality of me setting my own goals and targets, I'm not pushing myself enough. And
So
that's where I need to change. I need to push myself enough.
do you need an extra 100,000 this year?
Oh, absolutely.
Then we need to get out here to the midweek sale and make some connections and pop into some charity shops. You got the time. You're done by
Yeah.
8:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I have got the time, and that's where I'm embarrassed the most because I hear a lot of people say I love to do more, but I don't have the time. I definitely have the time.
We all have the time. Even if we say we don't, we all have the time. And the biggest difference with ultimate success and just being a paycheck to paycheck reseller is taking action.
Yeah.
And I talked to Philip. You know Philip in the group, right?
Mhm.
Okay. He used to live in Virginia, moved to Florida. He moved to Florida 2 weeks ago. He sent me a text message a couple days ago and said, "Hey, someone told me this flea market opens up at 5 o'clock. Is that true or not true?" I said, "That's not true. The vendors might get there at 5, but the gate is closed till 7." I said, "But if you're going to go there Saturday, I know a better spot. I'm going to be there." But that spot was 2 hours away from him.
Yeah.
That was on Friday night. Philip said, "Say less." This dude
Easy.
has been in Florida for 2 weeks. I told him a spot that's 2 hours away. It was 6 or 7 o'clock at night. I said, "This is the spot." He said, "Say less." Philip was there at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
He woke up at 3 o'clock to get there to go check it out. Once we got there, he found a bunch of stuff. It was worthwhile, worth the trip, because he said back in Virginia, he would do a flea market route and just drive for 4 hours, or
Mm.
a garage sale route, and he would spend 4 hours in the car. So he don't have no problem driving back and forth 2 hours. It's driving back and forth, and he's probably going to make $1,000 profit that day. So when I saw him there, I said, "Okay, Sunday I'm going to go to these two spots." Where do you think Philip was then? Bright and early, Sunday out there, getting it ready to go, taking action. I saw
Yeah.
him Sunday, and I said, "You know what? Monday, they got a really good spot. Be out there at 5 o'clock." Philip was out there. And Philip does extremely well, does a few $100,000 a year, but that dude is cold calling. That dude is talking to people that drive semi trucks. That dude, when I said, "Be out here, it's 2 hours away, get out there at 7," that dude was up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, ready to rock and roll. That is the only difference with people that are having massive success, is they are taking massive action. So the
Yeah.
difference between paycheck to paycheck reseller, and I'll say it because we all think we're working hard, we think we're doing it, we're
Mm.
not taking enough action. Because how many people, be honest with yourself, paycheck to paycheck resellers, you send me a text Friday night and I said, "Meet me at this spot that's 2 hours away at 7 o'clock in the morning," how many of y'all would be out there? And the answer is not
Most,
many. Philip
most.
said, "Say less." And I knew 100% chance that dude was going to be out there in the morning time.
And that's the mentality I need to probably fixate myself on a bit more. Like I spoke about earlier on, I expect it all to come to me. I expect it just to appear, and it's not going to appear. Where, like you say there, Philip's got the mentality to say, I've reached out, I've been given a great opportunity of a great spot. I'm going to take it with both hands.
Say
But you're right.
less.
People will just say, oh, 2 hours, or do you know what? I'll give that a miss.
Yeah,
It's the mentality of it.
right. And then Philip goes out there, he finds great stuff, and he made two connections that day.
Mhm.
Two connections. Now, the flea market was 2 hours away, and I told him, I said, "Hey, maybe this one is far, no problem. But maybe you could come out here every other week. Maybe you can come out here once a month, and these people are going to hold stuff for you." And in fact, today is Wednesday. I told Philip to check out a spot, and Philip texted me, and he was there. Philip checked out the spot. He said, "Yo, Wednesdays are definitely more clothing and shoes heavy. I'd say about 2.5 times the amount of vendors, little bit of everything, definitely more resellers on Wednesday, especially vintage buyers. Leaving and heading to the bins now. I appreciate all the information, definitely worth millions." That's fact. This dude was out there bright and early getting it in. And now heading right to the bins, going home, doing his stuff. The difference between paycheck to paycheck and the reseller, holy land, is taking the action. And we talked about today 4 or 5 bank accounts, make some more connections, hit the midweek boot, hit a couple charity shops, guaranteed an extra $100,000 in profit.
Yeah. And
The
it's all
only question
achievable.
is, are we going to do it?
It's all achievable. It's all achievable. And the answer is yes, I've got to do it
Got to do
because
it.
I don't want to be that reseller who is paycheck to paycheck because I might as well just go and get a job and be
Might as
paycheck to
well.
paycheck and not worry about in the evening and stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm desperate to make this work. And so I need to be out there, because if I'm not going to be out there getting the stuff, there's going to be another reseller down the road from me who is doing that.
And when they do that, they pass you up, which is fine, but they're
Mm.
going to pass you up on other connections, and that's what's going to take them to another level, and you're not going to get those connections.
Yeah.
And the connections is the easy part. When I walk into the flea market and I know this guy's already going to hold all the Lululemon for me, like it's guaranteed I'm not going to blank today. That's the cheat code. So like I wake up and I know, okay, I'm going to see this guy. He's going to hold all the Lulu, all the Lily Pulitzer. He's going to give me first shot at everything that he bought this week. There's
Mm.
no way that I'm blanking today. I'm going home with at least a few $1,000s in profit. When we don't go out there, I get the connection and you look at me walking by.
Yeah. And you've shown how easy it is to get connections. Like you say, you're not going to flea markets in your area. You're driving well out of the way to
Mhm.
get these connections. And like you were saying there with Philip, to get two connections today, he might say, well, 2 hours is quite a journey. But you're right. If he's going back every other week
Then
for
it's
two
fine.
connections, it's worth it.
It's fine.
Mm.
Or once a month and it's
Yeah.
fine. And you go out there once a month, you collect a few $1,000s, you make more connections, and you just let them know, say, hey, I live 2 hours from here. My money's good. My reputation is good. I'm a good dude. You have this stuff for me. I'll come collect it. I'll see you every 2 weeks. And they'll do it. It's fine. But every single week, best believe Philip's going to this Wednesday garage sale or Wednesday flea market, and he's going to be out here Saturday and Sunday. Best believe. And
Because
and 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 let's watch Philip's business transform in the next 12 months
mm.
by having access to this now, where before he didn't have access to that where he came from. And and,
this
and
this is
watch
like
watch
crazy informational.
watch how many people Philip leaves in the dust in his niche in the next 12 months. It's going to be scary. It's going to be absolutely scary where this dude is in 12 months. And that's the exact same thing that I did. I wake up every single morning because I know how much money I owe to the business, owe to myself today. My feet hit the ground and I'm getting it in and I'm off to the races and running.
Do you know what? I'm so grateful, because this is exactly the conversation I needed today. Exactly, because I come off the podcast earlier with Luke, and I spoke to him for 20 minutes afterwards, and I said the same thing to him. I just feel like we're just coasting. We're just waking up, going through the motions, getting it done, making some money, moving on. I don't want to be that reseller. I
Yeah.
want to be the reseller where I'm saying to you, Tech, I'm going to book a 2 week trip to come and see you in America. And I'm not even going to blink an eye.
I'll tell you what, somebody did that. I extended the olive branch. 4 days later, that dude had a cleared visa and a plane ticket.
Yeah.
That's massive action. And you know what? That dude, over the course of his lifetime, will make an extra $1 million by coming over here and meeting the
Yeah.
people that I'm going to meet. Bare
Absolutely.
minimum, he will make $1 million in his lifetime by meeting the people I'm going to introduce him to.
Yeah.
And he could have taken the olive branch and said, "Yeah, that's a great idea." That dude had a cleared visa in 4 days,
Yeah. Yeah. I
ready
know.
to go.
Yeah.
The opportunities are out there. The opportunities are everywhere. We just have to take advantage of the opportunities. And doing that 10x exercise, there is no way in hell you won't be up an extra 100,000 in the next 12 months.
That's the plan, then. Let's do it.
But we got
Let's
to
get
get
it.
out there and do it. We could talk about it or we could be
Yeah.
about it. There's two different things.
Let me show you that I'm going to go and get it.
That's
And
it.
I'm going to report in with you, and I'm going to say to you, do you know what? We're at the car boot midweek.
That's
We're at
it.
the champion shops. We're
Send me the
at the
message.
extra car boot. We're at the extra car boot on the weekend. We're doing
That's it.
more on Vinted. We've got the other accounts, because I am I'm sick of just getting by. And
And
like, don't get me wrong, this year is an improvement to where it is last year. Super happy with the change we've made,
yeah.
but
Well,
I'm
let's
sick of
talk
just
about that. In the last 6 months, what has changed in the business?
so let me grab the tab up here. So total sales, we're 23.6% up on total
Nice.
sales.
Nice.
Uh, the quantity sold is also up 5.5%. Average sale price up 17.1%.
Nice.
So everything is on the rise, but where we should be at the end of May, I should be on 41,666.67. And as of today, with a couple of days left, we're on 34,441.97. So we're 7.2K down from where I should be. But I am super confident that I'll be able to pull that back and still hit 100K this year.
Well, where's the 7.2K at?
The 7.2K at is the
It's at
second
the
store.
midweek boot sale. It's at the midweek boot sale. It's at the charity shops and it's at the connections. That's where that money's at.
Yeah, and it's also the adding the other stuff into my store and not being proud to pick up money.
Yeah,
Because that's what I've been doing for so long. I've been proud to pick up money. So it's going to be stop being proud to pick up money, list that extra five a day in the everything store within my store. And yeah, the 7.2K is at that 10x model. It's
that's
going
it.
to the extra charity shops, going to the car boot sales, going to the extra car boot sales at the weekend. And there's no way I won't smash past that. If I'm putting all that effort in, there's
No
no
way.
way in hell I'm not doing it unless I'm
There's
going to
no
these car boot sales and not looking.
there's no way. And something that I used to think about, which I don't know, it used to drive me, it's kind of silly, but it used to drive me, is that there's 8 billion people in the world, right?
Mhm.
I was the only one today in the entire world that went to 2 flea markets, 5 charity shops, came home and photographed 120, came home and listed 120, and came home and sold 120. I was the only person in the
No one else
entire
is doing.
world,
Yeah.
the only person in the entire world that did that. And I used to think about that every single day, that nobody in the entire world is doing this. And when you do this, when you go to the midweek sales, when you go to the charity shops, when you make the connections, when you buy 4 or 5 times more on Vinted, there ain't nobody in the world that's doing that except for you.
Mhm.
And what an awesome feeling.
Yeah.
You're outperforming the entire world.
It's gonna change everything. Honestly, this conversation, I don't think you understand. This conversation we've had today is going to change everything
I hope
because
so.
the whole 10x mentality is something I should have looked at and said 10x the minimum. But instead I went to 2x is the maximum, and that was all wrong. So
So
yeah.
I've told this story one, maybe 2 times. I've never told it on the podcast. So Grant Cardone, you got to get past all the crazy stuff to get to the concept of 10x. So
Yeah.
the concept of 10x, he's branded it's his thing. But a long time ago, where my life wasn't in the position that it is today, I used to drive my son an hour to school and an hour back, and then I used to pick him up an hour away, come an hour back. I used to spend 4 hours a day on the road, 5 days a week, which was 20 hours a week. If I get caught in traffic, it's 24, 20. I used to spend one day of my week every single day in the car
Yeah.
and had to do what I had to do. eBay allowed me the flexibility to go ahead and do that. Truly thankful. But one day I'll never forget this. And this was a long time ago before Grant Cardone ever became who. And there was a Bentley in front of me. And the license plate on the Bentley was a vanity tag from the Beatles, because in Florida we have vanity tags, and it
Mhm.
was a John Legend Imagine vanity plate. So the top row said Imagine, the bottom said Florida, and right in the middle it was a custom plate that said 10X. Didn't know who Grant Cardone was. He wasn't anybody back then. We're going back 15 years. My son
Yeah.
was 5 or 6 at this time. Grant Cardone was nobody who he is today. That was Grant Cardone's car. It was a Bentley with the license plate that said Imagine 10X. And
Wow.
I'm following this car because he lives down here by me in Florida. I'm following this car, and it hit me that this guy has a Bentley because why?
Because he's 10x.
He's doing 10X what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
And it was that day that I made the decision to blow up my business because I saw a Bentley in front of me. So you don't get a Bentley by working at McDonald's or Burger
Of
King.
course. Yeah. Yeah.
This guy had a license plate that said 10X. And I thought if I 10X my business, I could be successful and have a Bentley too.
And then you 10x your business and you still haven't got your Bentley.
I still have not got it, but that's okay. I got a lot of real estate like Grant Cardone as well. But
Yeah.
seeing that license plate on a
Just clicked.
obvious successful person in a Bentley, that changed the whole game for me. Before
Isn't
the
that weird
books,
how
before everything.
that one moment
That yeah, I
just
remember it
it
every
clicked.
single time I pass that stretch of highway. I think about
Mhm.
that to this day.
Mhm.
It was in Boca Raton. So he must have been coming back from West Palm Beach or something, going down to Miami. I was following him and 10X on the Bentley, and that changed the entire game for me. Something so silly like that. Maybe it was fate, who knows? But I started doing the calculations, okay, if I'm listing, 20 or 25, how do I 10x it? And eventually I got up to 250. But I didn't 10x tomorrow. I didn't 10x the day after. It wasn't the month after. It wasn't a year after. It took 10 more years to get to that point where I have 10x the business. And once I did, all along the way, it was a beautiful life.
Yeah.
But without thinking of taking like huge, massive action of setting myself up mentally to be the person that does 10 times what I do today. Because the guy you see today, I wasn't always this person.
Yeah, of course.
I was a guy who worked at the drugstore, did my work, and went to go hang out upstairs and went on my phone for the rest of the day. I used
Yeah.
to be that guy. But the mentality shift of, if I want this stuff that I say that I want, if I want this life that I say that I want, if I want these things that I feel like I deserve, I have to go out and go do it. And
Yeah.
in order to go do it, I need to be 10 times the man that I am today. 10 times the father, 10 times the husband, 10 times the business owner. That's what I need to do. So like, if you're having business, the proper action, probably to get a 2x, 3x, 5x, 10x, but just thinking in the mentality of a 10x person is an entirely different mind state. So even 10x of what I do today is an entirely different person than the person you see sitting in front of you today. Just
That's
all the little
10x
things.
mindset. That's
Yeah,
where I need to get my head to.
all the silly stuff that I do today is preventing me from being 10 times the person who I want to be in 10 years from now. All of that stuff would need to get cut out.
Yeah.
And when I'm ready to do so, that's when I'll figure that out. But the 10x mentality, it's a different person. You move differently, you operate differently. Because like, if someone lists 25, I list 250, our days are entirely different.
Of course.
It's entirely different. Someone who lists 2,500, our days are entirely different. So like, just the mind state and the movements really, really helped me when I saw that license plate on the car. Is that, I did the same thing that we did. If I want to list 200 or 250, I'm going to need to find 250. That means 55 thrift stores, 3 days a week at the flea market. That's going to mean staff. That's going to mean warehouse. That's going to mean all of this stuff, which I mapped out a long time ago on that drive home in the car. So, you know, the opportunity is out there. We have to take the action to seize the opportunity. And the opportunity may not be there forever. And, especially for you guys in the UK, you guys have a beautiful opportunity. That opportunity may not be there forever. So if it was me, I'm a chicken. I'm a pessimist. I'm scared. I would not lean on the sniping, and I would be making so many connections that if the day that the sniping gets taken away, or people wisen up, or, it starts getting more widespread, I'd have all the connections and everybody else would be scrambling. That's the position I would put myself in.
Yeah, and there is that fear mentality when it comes to that, when it comes to sniping,
Mm-hmm.
because it's great right now, and you're completely right. Any moment that can get taken away,
Mm-hmm.
and the people who have the contacts, people who have the connections, they're going to be laughing,
Yep.
and you're right, the rest of us are going to be scrambling. So I
That's the
think
key.
by I think by me trying to 10x the business or going to 10x the business will actually unlock a lot more opportunity as well, which
Yeah.
also will give me more security,
Yeah.
which also I'll worry about. The security aspect is huge.
Yeah. So put pencil to paper and really map it out. What does a business 10 times the size actually look like?
Yeah.
Every single aspect, and map it out. Move in that aspect, have the mentality of that aspect, and trust me, you'll be in a beautiful position, man. Trust me.
I'm gonna map it out, and I'm gonna send you the plan as well, because
Nice.
again, accountability for me to kind of say, Tech, this is my plan. And
That's
when I
right.
put myself on paper, I won't not do it. You won't catch me sleeping in on a Wednesday morning when I should be at the car boot sale.
Nice. Yeah. How
This
long
is
do you
so
usually stay at the car
motivation.
boot sale?
How long do I normally stay?
Yeah.
Um, Normally 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, you got that. That's no problem.
2 to 3 hours. And the thing is, I look at the day and I look at Wednesday, get to the car boot sale. I think it opens a bit late. So say even I got there at 6 in the morning. I could be back home by 9.
Sure.
I could still have my eBay day done by lunchtime. Like this is the crazy thing. And then sourcing on top from vintage from there, it will just mean that I'll need to move a couple of things around. It might mean the gym session creeps into the evening on a Wednesday, but
That's okay.
that's stuff that I can just do. So this is what I'm saying. The opportunity is there for me.
Hmm.
I just haven't been ready to grab it with both hands. And I need to.
Me too. Not an option.
No
No,
choice.
not an option. We have a plan, a very simple plan to pick up 100,000. You'd be a fool not to do it.
Absolutely.
All right, my man James. I love this conversation. This was a great one, man. Tell everybody where they can meet you, where they can find you. I appreciate you jumping on with us. Maybe we meet up with you again every 6 months and see the progression. I think that would be great. Hopefully, next time we meet up with you, you say, you know what, that $10,000 deal fell in my lap because I got so lucky because I was out there on Wednesday at the car boot. And you know what? The
Yeah.
more times I showed up, the more action I took, the luckier I started getting.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram and YouTube, bold finds for both. And yeah, next time I'm on the podcast, hopefully, touch wood, I'm going to be saying to you guys that I attempted to 10x my business and I failed, but I've 8x'd it.
That's right.
Fingers
That's right.
crossed.
Massive failure, 8x.
Yeah, I'll take the fail if it's 8x. I don't mind that.
That's it. And that's important too. That failure is important too because it keeps you hungry.
Yeah.
So setting these huge astronomical goals that are not even attainable is very important for me because it keeps me hungry. Just keep moving that goalpost back, moving that goal back to such large goals that you can't even meet them and you never stop running.
Can't
So
wait. This honestly, this has been so motivational. I'm so grateful, and I'm grateful for the stuff you do for the group. But I'm also grateful to get this time with you and kind of talk things through of what's going on with me, what's going on in my head and stuff, and actually having a perspective of think bigger because I
mhm.
really struggle with that think bigger. So I hope
You
this
have
helps
to.
other people, but if it doesn't, do you know what? It's helped me tremendously.
Well, the think bigger, before I did what I did, nobody did it. I had to think bigger.
Yeah,
And over there in the UK, nobody's doing it. You have to be the one to think bigger.
yeah.
And you are in a very good position where you could blow this thing up and build it as big as you want, as comfortable as you want, and make the kind of money that you want to make. No doubt in my mind, man. Just keep learning, keep studying, and keep taking action, and everything will fall into place, I promise.
So we're gonna
All
do
right.
it.
Thank you, everybody. Great episode. I liked it. As always, be great. Thank you.